The Grow My Cleaning Company podcast helps owners of cleaning companies just like you to grow your company and yourself so you can make more money and finally get the time and money freedom that probably got you into this business. Discover how to automate and create systems that allow you to grow like crazy without losing control. If you dig the show and want to show some love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It really helps. Enjoy the show.
What's up, Cleaning Nation? Lindsay here, and today we have Tracey Thompson in a workshop setting with our Next Level Millionaire Mastermind and some of our alumni folk, and she is teaching them on having fun sales conversations. Someone asked a great question, and we thought it would make a great podcast. So hope you enjoy, and let's get to it.
We're talking all things sales. And as I was saying, as people were coming on, sales is really just influence. It's just your way of having a conversation with your prospective new clients. And I would say even sales in this context is any influence conversation you have with anyone. We quote sell all the time. Anytime you have a persuasion or influence conversation with someone, if it's with your spouse, if it's with your kids, if it's with an employee or a prospect, every time you want to influence someone to do something, believe something, adopt something, say yes to something that you are trying to persuade them about, that to me is a sales conversation. We just don't call it that. We don't call that sales. Okay, so think about how many different places and ways that you have influence, influence conversations throughout your life. And I want you to think today. Okay, so put in the chat, when today did you have an influence conversation? Who was it with? When did you have an influence conversation? Doesn't have to be sales. I'd love to see all the different ways that you all can identify for yourselves that you have had influence. Team meeting. Yes. Love that. Absolutely. Team meeting. What else? Staff meeting. Yep. Absolutely. Definitely influence. Keep them coming. This is interactive, people. This is the interactive part where you type, unless you're driving, of course, But if you're not driving, definitely type in. My kids. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's total influence. Introduce cleaners to new client. Yeah, very good. So you think like that's sales because you want them to be accepting, you want them to be receptive, you want them to be happy about it. Absolutely. With friends, I love that. With friends, it's something we may not think about. Like with our friends, we're like, how do I influence my friends? Aren't friends just kind of like mutual and we don't really, but we do. Even if you're sharing the latest movie, haven't you ever watched a movie where you're like, either you hated it or you loved it, but you're telling them about it? Well, that's influence. Okay. So I love all these answers. So let's just agree that we are all good. Bible study at a party. I like that. Yes. I mean, you think about the Bible itself in an interesting way as one big sales conversation. It is, right? They're selling us on this idea that there's better ways to live our lives that make our lives more enriched, that are better for our community. I mean, all of that is persuasion. All of that is influence. Okay. So sales is not bad. It's never bad. The only time that we ever experience sales as being something negative is when either we're being sold to in a way that feels gross, right? That they're using their influence in a way that doesn't feel good. It's pushy. It's like, I feel like I'm being manipulated. You know what I mean, right? But can't that happen outside of a sales conversation? How many people have ever felt sold to when it wasn't even a sale? Right? Or like, oh yeah, this person's hardcore selling me on this thing right now. And they're not there was no money involved. All right. And I'm sure that all of us have had our kids, Marcus, right? How many have had like a 3-year-old totally sell you on something, right? They're 3 years old. They're like, let me tell you all the reasons why you should say yes to this right now, right? I mean, I think the best salespeople on the planet are kids because, man, they get creative. When they want something, they are creative. Okay. So we are taught from a young age how to persuade. All right. And we are taught that there are ways that are acceptable and ways that are not acceptable. But somehow in adulthood, we get this weird idea about the 4-letter word, the S word. Yeah, no, not that one. Sales, right? The 4-letter word that starts with an S. And we get this weird twisted up thing about sales being bad or wrong, or we want to stay away from it. Okay. Yet we know that in order to be great leaders, in order to be successful, profitable business owners, in order to do anything really, truly of meaning, we must harness the power of persuasion and influence, i.e. sales. Okay. So sales is service. That is the best way that I can tell you. The easiest frame that I like using is sales is service. How can I serve best right now? What can I do? What can I say that will serve the best interests of the person I'm speaking to or the people I'm speaking to, and the best interest of me, my company, my bottom line, whatever. And that none of that service is something you're doing to someone. It's what you're doing for them. Okay. So sales equals service. And that should make it very easy when you're kind of going, oh, well, gee, when you're trying to serve someone from your heart, do you ever feel bad about how you're doing it or the way you're doing it? Do you ever start to feel like, really think about that? If you show up to help build someone's house, or a charity, type of thing, and you're there to serve, and you're not the best at something, let's say you're not good at it. Do you ever feel bad or guilty or like I shouldn't be here? No, you show up and you do the best you can. That's service. Okay. So when you come from a service-based mindset and heart, you cannot go wrong. Okay. All right. Fantastic. So today I'm going to do, yes, I'm going to teach, but I would rather take actual scenarios, actual parts or pieces or whole conversations that you bring to me. Like, give me a situation, a scenario, a real life, like maybe it's something you're working on right now. Maybe it's some aspect of the sales conversation or process that you would like to bring. And then let's talk about it together. We can role play. We have some amazing people here that are fantastic at sales already. Roger, say hi, Roger. Wave. Say hi.
Roger.
Roger is one of our Millionaire Mastermind, fantastic, amazing members. And he has grown his business, commercial business over the years. He came from sales, but I asked Roger to please be here as one of our experts today. So I know that as much as I know about sales in general, I love having people like Roger here, so that if you have something really specific, like you're in a bid situation, or you have something that you're like, well, I really need very specific, like better than you, Tracey, kind of support, then Roger is here. So I wanted you to know that. And Mr. Marcus is married to one of the best salespeople in residential. I know, right? You got the bomb right there beside you. I'm sure she's somewhere in the house, right?
Yes, that is true for sure.
And I'm sure some of that is rubbed off. I'm sure that, some of the Melissa magic is over time probably rubbed off a little bit, but she's amazing. And I think that all of you, and Tom Tom Clements, you're awesome at sales too. We all can level up always, but Tom's here as well. All right, so let's dive in. So again, I'm going to just pre-frame a little bit. The sales conversation does not start when you give the bid. Okay. By the time you give the bid, I would argue that the sales conversation's over. Like, that's not saying that you don't follow up and that there isn't conversation that happens after that. But I want to really talk about everything that leads up to the bid. And if you've already given a bid and you didn't get it, and we can talk about that. But I'm going to tell you that if you say, well, I don't understand why I didn't get this bid, or I don't know why, I keep giving what I think are really great proposals and bids, and I'm not getting them, I'm always going to direct you back to the pre-frame and the pre-conversation to the actual bid itself. Because I promise you, bids are not won or lost with the numbers. They're not. It's not about the number on the page as much as it is how you managed and walked them through that conversation up to that point. Okay. All right. So who has a scenario, a situation, a question about, this is really open. I want you to come and say, okay, what about this? How do I handle that? This is the situation. So somebody start us off on a scenario you feel like you have questions about, or you want to give us an example. And don't all raise your hand at once. Because mad rush. No, slow down. This is just too much. You're killing me here. Come on. I know it's later in the afternoon, but let's see. Vesta. Awesome. Miss Vesta.
Okay. I'm just going to put myself out there.
We
Like
appreciate
a big earthworm to the fish. Oh, no. I guess the scenario that I'm in right now, at the gym one morning, some guy that works out there when I do hit me up and said, hey, my wife told me you had a cleaning company. And our current cleaner, he manages two farm equipment offices, one locally and one about 30 minutes south of us, for the same company. And he said his regular cleaner was moving to Georgia in July, and he wanted to have a new person in place by the end of May.
Okay.
And I says, okay, when can we come by and look? Well, just anytime, come by. And he told me which lady to talk to. So we did all that. He said, we're taking bids. And there again, I don't know how to handle that. I want to be the only one bidding.
And I totally understand. I'm glad you brought this up as a scenario. So I have thoughts about that. What else? Is there anything else you need for us to know about that situation?
Well, I took my office lady in. She was training her and how to do bids. And we had a great conversation with the lady. She told me everything they didn't really like about the other person. And the one office was super dirty. The other was super clean. And we told her all the ways that we could improve on that and how we could make their lives easier and take away the stress and worry that, and if anything wasn't done to the way we presented ourselves, we would come back and do it for free. No extra charge would be done. We're very, very particular and very, very mindful that we leave the place much better than what we find it.
Right.
And we'll do whatever it takes to fix their pain. I don't know. That's just general. Anyway, she was like, yeah, we look forward to working with you guys. We only have one other lady who's put on a bid. And so give us your numbers. And well, it was a little different cleaning. The one place they didn't want the floor. And so I reached back out to the guy and I said, can you give me an idea about how long it takes? Because your type cleaning, I've never done anything quite like this. And I'm not sure where to start. Could we shadow the current lady? And he said, well, you can try, but she speaks no English and it's very, that language barrier makes it hard. So he said, just give it a shot. And he said, you give a bid and do the job and it's not enough, we'll adjust it for you. And act like no problem. So we work the bid, drop it off in person. I sent my manager to do that just to give her a chance. And she presents herself very professionally. She's worked in the dental field for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked with her when I signed on the dentist office where she had worked previously.
Mm-hmm.
And so she knew how I had presented myself to her, and I told her just to go based off of that.
Mm-hmm.
And she went in and like had the contract, and here's where you sign and everything. And he's like, he took a look at it, and she said she didn't see anything. He didn't say, oh, the numbers look too big or too little. He showed nothing. He seemed like a very straightforward guy, just working out with him in the gym. And I don't know him that well, but he seemed very straightforward. And he told her he'd get back with her. Well, that's been a week ago.
Okay.
And May rolled around, and so she reached out to him. Hey, we're just curious where you're at with our quote, and we'd like to wrap this up so that you can be assured that you have a cleaner in place in the time frame that you had suggested. And so nothing. He doesn't respond back. And
Okay. So let's pull all these pieces apart. We're going to start from the top down, because that's any context, right, is part of the sales process, whether it feels like it is or not. So the very first thing I heard you say was Jim, right?
mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a cold funnel. It wasn't a lead that came through Google, that kind of thing. So it was a personal contact.
Yes.
Okay. So you had a personal contact in a non-traditional professional setting, right? So you're in a more relaxed, personal environment. A gym is a personal environment, right? So let's say those of you like gentlemen who golf, or that you were somewhere out, or ladies, if you were out at the hair salon and you ran into an owner or something, all of those scenarios are you're meeting a person. You're not meeting a company owner, whatever. So the first thing is to remember in sales is people buy from people. Okay. People don't buy from companies. Companies don't buy from companies. People buy from people. So you started out with this contact at a personal level. You always want to move closer. When it's personal like that, you want to move in closer at a personal level, because people buy from people. All right. So Roger and I know when we're in corporate sales, we cannot, that's our whole goal. How do we break past the ivory tower? How do we get past that? How do we get them on a golf course? How do we get them in a gym? How do we get them out of the ivory tower? You already started with them out of the ivory tower. Okay. So right off the bat, I would say the very first tactical move would have been for you to keep that level of more personal contact with him. He was the decision maker.
He was, because I especially said, are you the final decision maker? And he said, yes.
Right. Now, what did he do? He distanced himself. He told you how it was going to go. He told you, you're going to meet with this other person. He started to retreat in terms of posturing. He's going back, and he's like, hold on. This is the gym. Let me go back in my ivory tower and let me tell you about how this is going to go. So if he were a fish, I know it's terrible, but if he were a fish and you were in the boat and he was swimming right there up, right at the boat, and you're like, and you've got the net in the water, right? Calmly, you just dip it down a little bit deeper. You're just quiet. You're like, no, don't. I'm not bringing out the pole with the hook, right? You don't want to scare him away, and you don't want to let him run you, because this is where you started out personal. I would have kept it personal. I would have said, you know what? Fantastic. Why don't we Meet for lunch and let's talk about what your needs are, what you're looking for, and blah, blah, blah. You're already in a personal environment. Don't let them go back into their ivory tower and tell you about how they're going to push you away and push you off a non-decision maker, because she had nothing to do with it. She was a non-factor.
Well, here we are, the end of the podcast, and you made it. Great job. I've got a little bonus for you before for sticking through with me, but like I mentioned before, if you got value out of this podcast and you want to show a little love, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever the heck you're listening to this thing. Share with a friend, share the love. And as a special thank you for those of you that stuck with me to the end, how about I give you my personal phone number so we can text? It's a great way for me to get to know you, your business, your goals personally. So shoot me a text now, 602-932-6431. 602-932-6431. I am the only one who responds to these texts, and I will personally respond to everyone I possibly can as long as this number is manned. Don't know how long we're going to keep this at the end of the podcast, so grab it now. 602-932-6431. Give me a text, say hey, can't wait to meet you.